weekly development meeting for Backdrop CMS. We're going to chat about our recent release and other core issues. Before we get to that, let's go around and do some introductions. So if everyone could say their name and where they're from, and if they have anything exciting to share with us in 30 seconds or less, we can do that. Nate, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Nate Lampton in Oakland, California. And yeah, today we'll be talking about the security release that came out yesterday, and yeah, just running through the status update on 1.16. Ta-da!
How about Luke?
I'm Luke McCormick, coming to you from Danville, California. I'm working on migration issues to some extent these days.
Great. Matthias?
Hi, Matthias from Switzerland, working on the marketing website for small and middle business clients. But to be honest, I thought it was this is the design meeting. Excuse me. Was it that design meeting an hour ago? Okay.
Yep.
Let's stick with you.
Okay.
But I'm a front-end developer. Just listening to the what you have to say.
Great. Tim?
I'm Tim, St. Paul Tim, coming to you from Deerwood, Minnesota, temporarily. And my big backdrop project lately has been some screencasts. I've got out 3 screencasts this week. So
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Joseph?
I'm Joseph from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've been working on all kinds of like testing framework and theme setting stuff and some other things.
Great. Peter?
Peter from Estonia. I've been getting my hands dirty with tugboat stuff lately, which I'm finding really interesting, so I'm enjoying doing that.
Thanks for that. I am Jen Lampton. I'm also in Oakland, California, where it's a beautiful sunny day today. I am going to be working on a presentation I'm giving tomorrow at Stanford WebCamp. So excited about that. Involves upgrading. Let's turn it over to Nate to talk about releases this week.
All right. So the exciting news is that we had 1.15.1 come out yesterday. It was a security release that we were catching back up with one of our third-party libraries, CK Editor, the WYSIWYG editor that we use, or rich text editor that we use when editing content, came out with a new version 4.14 that included security enhancements. And although it was a new minor version of the software, and we try not to jump minor versions within bug fix releases, because Drupal had released a security update last week, bumping up the version of CK Editor, we wanted to follow suit just to make it apparent that we were putting at least the same amount of effort forward there. So 1.15.1 includes that new version of CK Editor. It also fixed 10 other issues, some of which were minor, some of which we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. Last week we mentioned the simple issues that some of the search system within Views wasn't working quite correctly because search autoload info wasn't loading a class. That's issue 4328. That had been merged in prior to the release. The language field can't be moved around reliably. Let's see, it's issue 4321, 4321, kind of fun. On the manage fields page. That issue was also merged. And lastly, one of the Views crossports, 4323, was also merged into that release. And there were seven other issues that were also noted. You can find them in the release notes for the 1.15.1 release. So that's exciting just to get that out there. I think that because of some difficulties that were happening yesterday, there's some lingering release tasks that still need to be completed, like we need to update our upstreams for Pantheon and platform and the Docker containers and stuff like that. So we'll be completing some of those items today to get 115.1 out there and distributed to all of our various upstreams. So with 115.1 out the door, the next bug fix release is 115.2. Most of the items that we had been talking about in previous weeks have been completed in 115.1, so we don't have a whole lot to talk about other than making the tests run faster and also expose a bit more information, 4306, which is something that Joseph has been working on. And it looks like we had a few regressions, but those have all not been addressed. The current code just needs another review. And I think at this point, we've kind of minimized the changes to tests themselves and have really just focused on the optimizations to the overall testing system. So that's in good shape. Currently needs code review at issue 4306. The 115.2 milestone list on GitHub currently has 65 open issues, which is a little bit long even for us. I would say it looks like almost half of them have pull requests that are in the needs review state. And if anyone is out there looking for a way to contribute to Backdrop immediately reviewing the pull requests that are currently out there, especially these ones that are in the 115.2 milestone, these are kind of bugs that are of a priority or easily fixed, that it's been proposed and seconded. So there's at least 2 people working on each one of those issues, looking for code reviews. So that's an area in which we could use some assistance. We don't have any other 115.2 issues specifically to pull out for discussion today, but just in general, there's a big list right now that could use some review. So do you guys have anything else you guys would like to mention regarding 115 and the current release of Backdrop? Okay. All right, well, let's talk about 116. 116 is our next minor version coming out May 15th, 2020 with feature freeze on May 1st. Let's see, something exciting happened this week. Enable autocomplete on all link and path fields, issue 3764, an issue that BW Panda has been the advocate for, has been merged in the past week. Peter, do you have anything that you'd like to add regarding that? I mean, it's done, yay. Anything that you see as needing follow-up or any additional work for that issue?
Not that I know of. I mean, I've been running it on my own Backdrop sites just as a patch for a while anyway. That seems fine. So no, but obviously any bugs or feature related feature requests we can add. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Let's see, next up, color module support is not inherited by child themes, issue 3348. I don't think this one actually has an advocate, but I saw that Joseph is the author of the code there. Joseph, can you give us an update on 3348?
Hang on.
Sorry, I didn't give you prep time for that one.
That's actually been RDBC for like 3 months.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah, I actually made that pull request at Bad Camp last year.
Oh, yeah,
So.
yeah, it's been marked RTBC since January. Okay. Well, I don't think we need to recap that one then. Sounds like that needs yeah, some core committer eyeballs. Next up is base and sub install profiles, 3174. BW Panda, Peter is the advocate for that one. Its current status looks like it has been marked works for me, but it needs testing coverage. And Joseph, you said that you were working on tests for this one. Can you give us some more in-depth information about what sort of approach you're taking and what sort of work remains to be done?
So my plan for actually implementing a test was just to create a sub-profile that extended minimal, and then just check that the things that minimal does in the setup process. But I've run into a problem where basically simple test doesn't actually use the installer. It sort of duplicates the installer's functionality itself. And so I'm either going to have to change what does use the installer or re-implement all of Peter's changes into the simple test setup script.
I see. Yeah, I see that.
It parses the installer. It like does a file scan for the profile and then does a parse of the info and then manually does all the steps itself rather than using any of the things they work.
Yeah, no, you mentioned that, and now, yeah, I recall that being the case. Huh. So, are you stuck at the moment?
I've been a little busy with other things, but my plan is actually like change it so that it uses the core installer thing, that it's the same as you did a drush install.
Oh, well, if that's possible, that would be a good thing, to make it so that the testing infrastructure, or when simple test runs, that it at least reuses some of the same code as the install system itself. If there's similarities and if those two things can be consolidated into one place, then that would be great.
Yeah, there are a lot of helper functions in the installer that wraps of various pieces of functionality, and I think those only have to replicate the very level of the code. So should be a lot easier to work with. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great. So we'll keep rolling forward on that one. Currently, so effectively, functionality seems complete. Testing is in progress. Next up is a new user interface for text format configuration, issue 1032. Gregory is the advocate for that, but he is not present here to give an update.
I'm reviewing that right now.
Oh, wonderful. Can you give us an update?
It looks really good. So it's currently marked needs review, code review, needs testing. I gave it some testing. I found one tiny bug. The default values for allowed HTML tags isn't populating in the modal, but I think it's a huge improvement over what we have now. I'm just adding a comment with some design recommendations, but I think it's really close. Essentially what it does is it takes the weird like vertical tab filtery thing where you check on a filter and then something else shows up somewhere else and turns it into a modal. So you've got a configure link on that side and you click on that link and it opens in a modal, which I think is a lot more intuitive. It feels nicer. That page is still a little bit of a mess just because there's a lot going on the text format page, but I think it's better than it was before. So definitely a step in the right direction.
With the previous version, we had some validation problems that when you closed the dialog, validation on the filter wasn't happening on the configuration inside of the dialog. I did a little bit of poking around on it, but I didn't actually try that out. Did you see if that problem
I'll try
has been
that.
fixed? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I also just poked around on it, but I haven't done any code review yet. Yeah. So we'll probably need to, once we get the front end reviewed, which I agree seems to really be coming along well, we'll need to do a back end code review as well. It does work. Doesn't the testing work on it already?
Test or passing.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because that's a substantial difference in the way the text formats work. For a because simple test doesn't run JavaScript That means that when configuring a text format, it's now on lots of pages, kind of like configuring a view, where it clicks on things, and instead of opening up the dialog, it goes to a different page. You save, and then it goes back, and it has like an in progress state while you're configuring it before you hit the save button. I think I also saw there was a cancel button, which like views or layouts, like discards your changes.
Well, that makes sense. If there's an in progress state, then it's got to save a state. So yeah, great.
Okay, next up, let's see, providing a way to re-enable disabled text formats, 1575, currently needs review. I think that this is another one that has been stuck in the review hole. Yeah, it's been a month now since the last pull request was submitted, that it's been refactored and should be adequate because it's already gone through a couple rounds of feedback and discussion. But the latest pull request that has been submitted incorporates the feedback that was suggested and currently just needs a code review. So 1575 currently stuck in code review land. Next up is 1475, improving the workflow states, issue 1475. It looks like, let's see, Gregory posted that they're finalizing terminology and the journal specifications of how it should work. It's basically still in discussion format, right?
Well, I think that really we settled all the issues, didn't we, Jen? And we really just need to update and create. We were going to create a new ticket, link back to the old one. So somebody just has to find the time to do that. But it's, you know, it's not a 10-minute task. It's probably a 30 to 40-minute task, I'm guessing. So that's why it hasn't happened. But it should. And I don't know, Jen, if either you or I committed to doing that, or if it's kind of.
I think you committed first, and then I committed last week, and neither one of us have done it. So.
Well, I certainly won't. I can't promise anything, but I'll try. I'm trying to get to it.
Okay. Tim, you're the advocate for the next issue, 2379. Could you go ahead and roll into that update?
Sure. So I was just reviewing that, and it might need Jen's help because she's the last one who's commented on it. The quick summary of this issue is it's just allowing us to use tokens when creating node types or content types to modify the author date format so that you can change the. I think it's submitted by author and date and is the default, and now you'll be able to put whatever date format you want, switch the order, change the word from submitted by to something else, do all of those things. It's very flexible. People like it. I believe our current status is just Jen raised some concerns about the use of tokens, but then maybe backed off those concerns. Jen, where are you at?
I think I would like to try and put a JavaScript example on the page the same way we do with date format, so that if you did, submitted by blank on date, it would show today's date and I don't know, whatever username is in there, even if it's anonymous or something, right after the field. So as you change it, you could see it change, because right now, this is the only interface in all of Core where somebody who's a content editor will see a token. And so it's going to be a very strange concept to them. And I think if we have a working example of what it renders as, it'll make a lot more sense.
Okay.
So that was my only concern.
Can I ask about, can I just check back on that? Because the content, even with this pull request, the content, like adding a node, you set this at the node type level, don't you? I don't think there's any.
I think it shows up on the node form too.
Well, I was just looking at that right now. I don't think it does.
Oh, maybe not. I'll go look at it again.
Yeah, if you go to the node form, I don't think it does. And on the node type form, there is another, we also use that for.
Yeah, no, node type form is for higher level admins. I'd be fine with that. I'll go look again. I don't know what I saw.
Okay.
But yeah, if it's not on the node form, then I don't have a concern.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, you can't do it by node. It's just by node type.
okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, I
Well-
was thinking the same thing.
Okay, then I still need to kind of go back and see if all the issues have been resolved, but that might be one of the few things outstanding. I think the technical issues have been sorted out, but we'll check on that. Okay, that's all.
Great. Yeah, to clarify, I mean, I was thinking the same thing as you, Tim, that this is no type form only.
Right.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great enhancement. That submitted by line is
Mhm.
it's just kind of weird. You know, like on a site that has a more formal voice, they use people's real names, not their backdrop usernames. And on a site that is personal, like a blog, you don't need to include your name because it's just you posting every piece of content. So that's a great enhancement.
Well, we do have a checkbox for that already, if you don't want the name and only the date.
Well, the thing that bugs me the most is the date format. It's like
Yeah.
every time I install a new site, I look at that date format and I say, no.
No. Yeah.
Maybe we should make another issue to change the default date format.
Yes, we should, if we don't have one already. Where's Gregory when we need him?
Okay. Well, those issues are the ones that make up the 116 milestone currently. Let me see. There's some other really minor things. It's also worth noting that entity cache and core has been in 116 for a while now. And so that's also going to be in that release. So very exciting. Do you guys have anything else you guys would like to mention regarding 116? Or we can move right into general discussion if you guys have anything you guys would like to bring up and talk about.
Can I ask Jen about your upgrade project and how it's coming?
Sure. So essentially what we're doing is I sat down with Arena after the presentation I gave at the San Francisco Drupal meetup, and she showed me the Drupal 8 Migrate UI module, which allows you to plug in credentials for a second database, and it'll give you some information on whether your site's ready to upgrade or not. And so I spent some time working on the backdrop upgrade status module, which is a Drupal 7 module you put on Drupal 7 site, and it tells you which modules you're running and their status in terms of being ready for backdrop or not. So I spent a couple of hours updating the list of modules that are in core, which is now quite extensive. And it checks the backdrop contrib repository and will let you know if there's an official release or a dev release out for that module. So what I'm trying to do now is figure out how to get two things done. One of them is whenever I do an upgrade, I make a huge spreadsheet with a whole bunch of information about content types and how much content of each type. And I figured that could be something this report could give us as well. So rather than just being a module status, it'll give you more of a content overview summary so that if you're trying to come up with an estimate for moving a Drupal 7 site to backdrop, you have an idea of what you're going to do. And then I want to be able to have an upgrade UI module for backdrop that matches the migrate UI module for Drupal 8 that would allow you to set up an empty backdrop site, turn on this module, plug in some information about your Drupal site. And I'm unsure now as whether I want that to be like connect to a second database the way Drupal 8 does, or upload your Drupal 7 database, or connect to like a XML feed or something that comes out of the Drupal 7 site where you've installed this upgrade status module. And maybe we could pull across the information we need from your Drupal 7 site into your Drupal 8 site, and it would be able to, or this is how Drupal 8 does it, from your Drupal 7 site to your backdrop site, and it would be able to tell you, okay, you're ready to upgrade or not, and then give you a button that would allow you to do that. So if it has the database, it can give you the button and it can upgrade using the database you provide. If it's taking information from another site to tell you whether you're ready to upgrade or not, it can't. So there's kind of some pros, cons there. I haven't yet started working on the upgrade UI module. I've been so far working on getting all of the data into the upgrade status module. So in my demonstration tomorrow, I'm going to demo the upgrade status module, but I'm not going to talk about the UI module because I haven't quite figured out that yet. But I did create an issue in the core queue. So if you have ideas about how upgrade UI could or should work, I'm all ears for that. So please weigh in.
What's the issue?
Of course, you're gonna ask me issue number. Okay, I can find it. It should be right near the top. Let's see. It is issue number 4345.
Got it. I am anxious to help you with that. So let me jump on that and see what I can come up with.
Okay, great.
Wow, so that's cool.
How are you going to do the connecting to multiple databases?
I don't know. So what Drupal 8 does is it assumes you already have both databases set up and just asks you for credentials for the second one. So I might start there just because that way I already have the UI built for that. But that does sort of mean that you've built a new backdrop site and you have an empty database with no content in it other than your backdrop stuff. And then you create a second database and you upload your Drupal 7 stuff, which is a little bit of a weird workflow, especially for our audience. I think it would be better if we give them like an upload field, because Backdrop has the ability to create a database if it has permission to, which is something that Drupal 7 didn't have. I think Drupal 8 might have that too. I don't remember. But that way it would be able to do those two connections for you.
But I thought we removed the ability for the database layer to have multiple databases hooked up.
Oh no, it can still have multiple databases. We just don't do that by default. We use the connection string and it translates into the complicated array of multiple databases in the back end. It's just the syntax for putting it in that we changed.
Oh, so the old, like if I gave it the old array of data, it would work?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's a in settings.php, it says like for more advanced configuration, see, and then it links over to a documentation page on api.backdropcms.org. And that says you can use that big verbose format that Drupal 7 used.
Cool.
I think we had some work where we wanted to make it so that the documentation wasn't so overwhelming when you opened up settings.php, where you'd have to scroll down 120 lines before you got to the database connection string. And so we just abbreviated the examples and put them on a website instead.
Okay, that thing was totally removed.
So I just want to say I'm totally excited to have this in play. This is the kind of thing I would normally bring up in the outreach meeting, but since it's come up here, I actually interviewed for a job yesterday involving migration between things, and so just this last week I re-upped my understanding of what the Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 upgrade process looks like, and I was totally appalled. I was just stunned, for example, to find out that the official recommended process for migrating views from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 is do it by hand.
Really?
Yeah, like there's no way, they're not working a way, there's no plan, there's no care that like views get migrated to the built-in views in Drupal 8, which just like flabbergasted me.
Oh, well.
And I mean, that's true, right? Like, does anybody know anything different to that? Like I'd assumed that there was a way, but just when I looked up, it's, oh, what is the way? And like kept looking until I found, finally admission that that's not a thing. So
probably write your own migrate plugin if you like had the knowledge to do that.
no, I actually thought of like a whole bunch of programmatic ways to do it, but
Right.
I mean, I would like, just for example, I don't know if this is possible, but this group will know. It occurred to me that you could modify the export view functionality in Drupal 7 to export a CMI blob for the Drupal 8 view? Like, does that, when we can do that, right? Like Backdrop does migrate views, right?
So Backdrop does pull views out of the database and store them into configuration files. And it the syntax though for the Drupal 7 view and the Backdrop view, the format is identical other than PHP versus the config JSON format. So I don't know what's changed in Drupal 8, but it could be that the syntax difference is significant enough that they couldn't just extract it and save it differently. But I would imagine that that would be possible to write that as a migrate plugin, but it could be that it's just so complicated. And most people who are moving to Drupal 8 are doing rebuilds that maybe they don't, like there's not a big use case for that or hasn't been so far. And so it just hasn't been a priority for people.
Yeah, I suspect it's not a big use case among the crowd that's paying attention, right? But like there's this giant crowd of Drupal 7 users that aren't involved in the meetings who this matters a hell of a lot to, I think. So when I experience that, like my thought is that that's a huge opportunity for us. Like it's something that there's just going to be like thousands and thousands of site owners out there that need this and want this, and we provide it, and Drupal 8 doesn't. So I think it's a huge thing to verify, to make sure, to document, to tune, to enjoy.
Ah, sounds cool.
Let's see, we also had Justin Christofferson join us, who's our systems administrator, volunteer on a volunteer basis. Justin, did you have something that you wanted to join to say?
Well, I mean, maybe we could talk about it offline
Okay.
if there's something I can help with.
Okay, yeah, we're just in the free form open discussion portion of the meeting. So,
Okay.
but we can definitely, circle back to that. Tim?
I have what I think is hopefully a quick question. I asked my colleague David Radcliffe a few weeks ago to do a graph of the usage data that we have, and we can easily get a year's worth of data. I assume that data going back is available. How easy would it be to get access to the last couple of years of usage stats?
You can use the sanitized database and pull down the whole database and then do the queries against that if that would be useful.
That's the easiest way to do it right now.
I guess there's no way in the user interface that I'm aware of.
Okay. So this data is stored in backdropcms.org. So you're saying
right.
in a sanitized version of that database, we could get the usage stats going back as long as they've been kept.
Yep, and you can, as long as they've been kept, yeah. And you can get that from sanitize.backdropcms.org. And if you have access to the 1Password account, then the password is in there if you're in the DevOps group.
I think I probably have that.
Okay.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Well, let's end the meeting, broadcast at least. And if you guys would like to stay on to do any after talking, then please do. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to add before we end? Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you guys joining. And thanks to the internet people out there that watch these meetings on YouTube later. So cheers and thanks, everybody. Take care.